The galaxy had never seen anything like it before. For centuries, the most advanced civilizations, those who mastered space travel, conquered planets, and bent the laws of nature, ruled with an iron fist. They created alliances, waged wars, and exploited resources in a never-ending struggle for dominance. But none of them had ever faced an opponent quite like humanity. It all started on a small, seemingly insignificant planet called Earth. Humans were late to the galactic game, only learning about the wider universe when their crude probes stumbled into the outer edges of a neighboring star system. The Galactic Council, made up of the most ancient species in existence, dismissed humanity as nothing more than an annoying pest. A primitive race with nothing to offer, they thought. They couldn't have been more wrong. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their strength or their technology. It wasn't even their numbers, which were pitiful compared to the galaxy's other inhabitants. It was their mind, their ability to adapt, to think creatively, and to outsmart even most advanced artificial intelligence. And when humans finally made contact with the rest of the galaxy, it wasn't with a fleet of warships or an armada of death rays. No, they made their presence known through ideas, strategies, and plans that left their enemies speechless. The turning point came during the Battle of New Sirius, a strategic star system in the heart of the galaxy. The system was controlled by the Rhetherii, a reptilian race known for their brutal conquests and merciless rule. They had ruled New Sirius for over 1,000 years, using it as a hub for trade, war, and expansion. No one had ever dared challenge their grip on the system, at least not until humanity entered the scene. The Rhetherii were arrogant, confident in their military might. They had an army of warships that dwarfed anything humanity could muster, weapons that could tear through planets, and a battle-hardened fleet that had never known defeat. By all accounts, humanity should have been crushed the moment they crossed into Rhetherii space. But they weren't. The first signs of something different came when human ships, small and insignificant by galactic standards, appeared on the outskirts of New Sirius. They didn't attack, didn't engage in any form of aggression. They just waited. The Rhetherii watched in confusion, unsure of what these tiny ships were doing. But when their sensors began to detect strange energy fluctuations, they realized something was very, very wrong. Humanity wasn't there to fight a conventional war. No, they were there to win a battle of minds. Unbeknownst to the Rhetherii, humanity had developed a new form of quantum entanglement communication. It allowed them to transmit information faster than the speed of light, something no other species had managed to achieve. And with this new technology, humanity could coordinate their movements with a level of precision that left the Rhetherii scrambling to catch up. The humans didn't need more ships or bigger guns. They needed only one thing: information. By using their advanced quantum communications, they were able to predict the Rhetherii fleet's every move, outmaneuvering them at every turn. It was as if the humans could see the battle before it even happened, making adjustments in real time that no Rhetherii commander could keep up with. At first, the Rhetherii commanders dismissed the humans' tactics as luck, a fluke. But as the battle wore on, it became clear that something far more dangerous was at play. The humans were playing a different game, one that the Rhetherii didn't understand. The final blow came when the Rhetherii flagship, the pride of their fleet, found itself surrounded by human ships on all sides. The Rhetherii captain, a seasoned warrior with countless victories under his belt, was baffled. How had these humans managed to outflank him? How had they known exactly where to strike? It was as if they had read his mind. The answer, of course, was far more terrifying than any form of mind reading. The humans hadn't read his thoughts. They had outthought him. Every decision he made, every move he ordered, had been predicted by human strategists long before the battle even began. They had modeled his behavior, analyzed his tactics, and used their superior processing power to anticipate his every move. In the end, the Rhetherii flagship was forced to retreat, its proud captain humiliated in a way he had never experienced before. New Sirius, once thought to be an impenetrable stronghold, was now in human hands. The rest of the galaxy watched in stunned silence as the news spread. A race of primates from a backwater planet had just outsmarted one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. It was unheard of, unthinkable. And it was only the beginning. Humanity's victory at New Sirius wasn't just a military triumph. It was a wake-up call for every species in the galaxy. The humans weren't to be underestimated. They weren't just another race to be conquered and assimilated into the galactic order. They were something new, something dangerous. They were thinkers. In the months that followed, human ambassadors made their way to the Galactic Council, not with demands or ultimatums, but with offers of cooperation. They proposed new alliances, new technologies, and new ways of thinking that left even the oldest species questioning their own methods. Human scientists shared their advancements in quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and communication, transforming industries across the galaxy. But behind every offer of peace, every handshake, there was an undeniable undercurrent of control. The humans didn't need to conquer planets or wage wars. They were doing something far more effective. They were bending the very fabric of the galaxy to their will. As the months turned into years, humanity's influence grew. They didn't fight with guns or bombs. They fought with ideas. And slowly but surely, they began to reshape the galaxy in their image. No one could have predicted it. No one could have seen the rise of a species that relied not on brute strength, but on the power of their collective intelligence. The galaxy had faced countless threats before: war, disease, natural disasters, but it had never faced anything like this. Humanity had become the most dangerous force in the galaxy, and they didn't need to fire a single shot to prove it. The rise of humanity wasn't sudden. It wasn't like a bolt of lightning that struck the galaxy. It was more like a virus, quiet, creeping, infecting every corner of the stars with their ideas, their technology, their influence. After the fall of New Sirius, the Rhetherii weren't the only ones to feel the ripple effect. Across the galaxy, the ancient empires, the established powers, began to whisper. Who were these humans? How had they done it? And most importantly, what would they do next? The Galactic Council, which had been the governing body of the galaxy for millennia, held an emergency session. The council was made up of the most ancient species, the ones who had long ago risen above the squabbles of lesser races and considered themselves the guardians of order. Their members included the telepathic Draverii, the insectoid Chtar, and, of course, the bruised and humiliated Rhetherii. They sat in their grand chamber, their towering forms casting long shadows across the council hall, discussing the human problem with a mix of fear and curiosity. These humans, growled General Krosh, the Rhetherii commander who had lost New Sirius, are not to be trusted. They fight with dishonor, with deception. We should crush them before they spread any further. The Chtar delegate clicked its mandibles in agreement, its compound eyes gleaming under the dim lights. Humans, unpredictable, must control. Before too late, but others were more cautious. The Draverii representative, a creature of pure thought and energy, floated in the center of the chamber, its voice echoing telepathically in the minds of all present. They are not like the others. Their minds are sharp, their strategies unpredictable, but they are not conquerors. They offer alliances, not war. Perhaps they are a new type of order. Krosh spat, his reptilian tongue flicking out in disgust. They are chaos wrapped in flesh. I will not sit idly by while they dismantle the galaxy from within. The council chamber buzzed with disagreement. Some wanted war, to crush humanity before they could spread further. Others, the more cautious and thoughtful among the council, argued for diplomacy, for finding a way to coexist with this new player in the galactic game. But there was one thing they all agreed on: humanity could not be ignored. While the council bickered, humanity moved forward. In a hidden facility on one of Earth's moons, the true scope of humanity's plans was unfolding. It wasn't enough to win battles. No, humanity had learned long ago that victory wasn't achieved through force alone. Victory was a game of endurance, of strategy, of manipulating the board until your enemies had no moves left. At the center of this facility sat a group of the brightest minds humanity had to offer. Scientists, philosophers, strategists, and yes, even AI, working together in perfect harmony to craft humanity's future. This place, known only as the Nexus, was the beating heart of Earth's galactic ambitions. "How long until the Draverii break?" a voice asked from the shadows. The speaker was a tall man, his features sharp, his eyes glinting with a cold intelligence. He was one of the key architects of humanity's rise, though few knew his name outside of Earth. "They're close," responded a woman standing next to a holographic display. The display showed a map of the galaxy, with various star systems highlighted. "Their telepathic network is extensive, but we've already managed to infiltrate several key nodes. They'll start questioning their own thoughts soon enough." And the CHTARs, the woman smiled. "Insects are easy. Disrupt their pheromone signals, and they fall apart. We've been testing new methods of interference. Subtle, undetectable. Their hive mind is already weakening." "Good," the man said, stepping closer to the hologram. "We don't need to fight them. We just need them to doubt. Once they start doubting, they'll tear themselves apart." This was humanity's new form of warfare. Not with weapons, but with ideas. Not with armies, but with thoughts. The Nexus had discovered that in a galaxy full of telepaths, hive minds, and collective consciousnesses, the most powerful weapon was not a laser or a bomb. It was doubt. By planting seeds of doubt in the minds of their enemies, humanity was slowly unraveling the very fabric of their societies. The Draverii, once a united telepathic empire, were starting to question their own leaders, their own decisions. The CHTAR, whose hive mind had ruled countless systems, were beginning to splinter as the subtle disruptions in their communication networks spread chaos among their ranks. And the best part, no one could trace it back to humanity. Every move, every action, was carefully calculated, leaving no fingerprints, no obvious signs of tampering. The galaxy would tear itself apart, and by the time they realized what had happened, it would be too late. The man turned to the woman, his face expressionless. "What about the Retherii?" Her smile faltered. "They're more resilient. Their military is still strong, and they're rallying allies. Krosh is dangerous." "Krosh is a fool," the man said, waving a hand dismissively. "He still believes in brute force. He'll lead his people to their own destruction." "Perhaps," the woman said, "but we can't ignore him. He's already building alliances with the more militant factions of the Council. If we don't act soon, they could start a full-scale war." The man paused, considering. War wasn't part of the plan. Humanity wasn't ready for that. Not yet. They needed more time to let their seeds of doubt take root, to let their enemies weaken themselves from within. "Send word to our allies," he said finally. "Tell them to prepare. If Krosh moves, we need to be ready. But make sure the Council still believes we want peace. We can't afford to tip our hand too soon." The woman nodded and turned back to the hologram, her fingers dancing over the controls as she sent encrypted messages across the galaxy. The man watched her work for a moment, then turned and left the room, his mind already racing with new strategies, new plans. Humanity had come far, but they were only at the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of ancient powers and hidden threats. But humanity had something none of the others had, a mind sharp enough to cut through the darkness, to bend the galaxy to their will. And they weren't going to stop until every star, every planet, every empire in the galaxy bowed before them. While humanity plotted, the galaxy continued to shift and change. Alliances were forming, enemies were sharpening their blades, and the drums of war were beginning to beat. But in the quiet corners of the stars, far from the eyes of the powerful, something else was happening. On a remote, desolate planet at the edge of known space, a small group of explorers had discovered something strange. It was an artifact, ancient and forgotten, buried deep beneath the surface. Its surface was smooth, black as the void, and pulsed with an eerie, otherworldly energy. No one knew where it had come from or what it was, but one thing was clear: it wasn't from this galaxy. And as the explorers carefully unearthed it, they unknowingly unleashed a force that would change the course of galactic history forever. The discovery of the artifact on the desolate planet, later named Void's Edge, was the spark that would ignite a fire far larger than anyone in the galaxy could have anticipated. It started as a routine exploration mission, one of thousands carried out by humans in the uncharted corners of the galaxy. The team was a mix of scientists, engineers, and explorers, all accustomed to finding nothing more than dead worlds or ancient ruins long forgotten by time. But this was different. The artifact hummed with a power that no known technology could explain. At first, the scientists thought it was just some sort of dormant energy source, a relic from a lost civilization. But the more they studied it, the more they realized that it wasn't just dormant, it was alive. Or at least, it reacted to stimuli in ways that suggested some form of consciousness, or a connection to something larger, something beyond their understanding. Dr. Tessa Maros, the lead scientist on the mission, stood over the artifact, her brow furrowed in concentration. She had seen countless alien artifacts before, most of them harmless or dead, relics of civilizations that had long since turned to dust. But this one was different. The surface was smooth, impossibly so, and the energy readings it emitted didn't match anything in their databases. "Still no idea what we're looking at?" asked Captain Jonas Ray, the grizzled leader of the expedition, as he entered the lab. Tessa shook her head, not taking her eyes off the artifact. "It's like nothing I've ever seen before. It's ancient, older than anything we've encountered in this sector. But it's not just old, it's powerful. I don't know what kind of energy it's giving off, but it's not from this galaxy." Jonas frowned. "Not from this galaxy? Are you telling me this thing's extragalactic?" "Possibly," Tessa said, her voice barely a whisper. "Or it could be even older than that. The energy readings suggest it's not bound by the same physical laws we understand. It could be from another dimension. For all we know." Jonas rubbed his chin, deep in thought. "And no one else knows about this yet?" Tessa hesitated. "We've kept it under wraps for now. The team is still analyzing the data. But if this thing is what I think it is, we can't keep it a secret for long." "Right," Jonas muttered, "because nothing stays secret in this galaxy for long." He was right. In a galaxy teetering on the edge of chaos, where alliances shifted like sand and empires plotted in the shadows, news of something this powerful would spread like wildfire. And if it was as dangerous as Tessa suspected, it could change everything. While Tessa and her team worked to unravel the mysteries of the artifact, far across the galaxy, humanity's leaders were meeting in secret. The Nexus, the shadowy organization that had orchestrated humanity's quiet rise to power, was more concerned than ever. Word had reached them about Krosh's growing alliances and the possibility of a galactic war. In a darkened chamber deep within Earth's moon, the top strategists of the Nexus gathered around a massive holographic map of the galaxy. Each star system was marked, showing the influence of the various galactic powers. And in the center of the map was Earth, glowing brightly as the hub of humanity's influence. "Reports indicate Krosh is rallying support faster than we anticipated," said Director Lyle Varn, the de facto leader of the Nexus. His voice was calm, but there was an undercurrent of tension. "If he manages to unite the Retherii with the militant factions of Council, we could be looking at a full-scale war within months." "Let him unite them," said Commander Elise Brandt, one of the key military strategists. "The more centralized they become, the easier it is to dismantle them from the inside. We've already placed agents in their key leadership positions. When the time comes, we'll tear them apart." "That's a dangerous game," Lyle replied. "We're playing with forces that have ruled the galaxy for millennia. One wrong move, and we could end up facing an alliance too powerful even for us to manipulate." Elise smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "We've been underestimated before. Let's not forget what happened at New Sirius. Humanity's strength isn't in numbers or firepower. It's in our ability to outthink them. Still," Lyle continued, "we need to be prepared for every possibility. If Krosh does launch a war, we'll need more than just subtle manipulation. We'll need something decisive." There was a pause, a tension hanging in the air. Lyle's eyes scanned the room, searching for an answer no one wanted to give. "Are you suggesting we weaponize the artifact?" a voice finally asked. It was Dr. Aiden Kell, one of the top scientists working with the Nexus. Lyle didn't respond immediately, but his silence was answer enough. "That's a dangerous move," Aiden continued. We don't fully understand what it is or how it works. If we're wrong, we won't be wrong, Lyle interrupted. This artifact, it could be the key to everything. It's not just a weapon. It's a way to control the very fabric of reality. If we can harness its power, we won't need to fight a war. We'll win before it even begins. But if we can't control it, Aiden pressed, we could unleash something far worse than Krosh or the Council. We're playing with forces we don't understand. Lyle stood, his hands clasped behind his back as he paced the room. Every major leap in human history has come with risk. When we split the atom, we didn't know if it would destroy the planet. When we unlocked quantum communication, we didn't know if it would unravel the universe. And yet we move forward, because that's what we do. We push boundaries. We break the rules of the universe. He stopped and turned to face the group. This artifact is no different. It's a key to something far greater than any of us can imagine. And if we don't use it, someone else will. The room was silent. The weight of Lyle's words hung heavy in the air. Everyone in that room knew the risks. But they also knew that if humanity didn't take control of this artifact, someone else would. And in the wrong hands, it could be the end of everything. Prepare the artifact for transport, Lyle finally ordered. We're moving it to Earth. I want our top scientists working around the clock to unlock its secrets. Aiden hesitated for a moment, but nodded. Understood, but I still think we're playing with fire. Lyle smiled, though it was cold and devoid of humor. Humanity has always played with fire, Aiden. And look how far we've come. Back on Void's Edge, Tessa Morrows and her team were making progress. At least, they thought they were. The artifact had started to respond to their tests, pulsing with a steady rhythm that seemed to sync with their equipment. It was as if it was communicating with them, though they had no way of understanding what it was saying. As Tessa studied the readings, something caught her eye. The energy levels were spiking, higher than they had ever been before. She leaned closer, her fingers flying over the controls as she tried to pinpoint the source of the fluctuation. And then, without warning, the artifact activated. A blinding light filled the lab, and the air around the artifact seemed to warp, bending in ways that defied physics. The entire facility shook as if an earthquake had hit, and Tessa was thrown to the ground, her ears ringing from the sudden explosion of sound. When she looked up, the artifact was floating in the air, spinning slowly as tendrils of energy arced out from its surface. It was no longer dormant. It was awake. Shut it down. Jonas yelled from across the room, but it was too late. The artifact pulsed once, twice, and then a wave of energy exploded outward, tearing through the facility and beyond, spreading out into the stars. Tessa's heart raced as she scrambled to her feet. She had no idea what they had just unleashed, but one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same. The wave of energy unleashed by the artifact on Void's Edge rippled through the galaxy, traveling faster than the speed of light, bending the very fabric of space-time as it passed. The pulse was not just physical. It was something more, something that transcended the normal bounds of energy and matter. It carried with it a message, a signal that resonated in the minds of those sensitive enough to hear it. Across the galaxy, the ancient races felt the disturbance, though none could pinpoint its exact origin. On Earth, in the heart of the Nexus, alarms blared. Scientists and strategists scrambled as the readings from their sensors went off the charts. Lyle Varn, standing in the command center, watched in cold silence as the data streamed in. He knew instantly what had happened. They activated it, he whispered, barely audible. Commander Brandt stood beside him, her face pale. What now? What does this mean? It means, Lyle said, his voice low and tense, that everything just changed. The energy wave wasn't just a signal, it was a call, a beacon, and had been answered, far beyond the edges of a known galaxy, in a region of space where no living being had ventured in millennia. Something stirred. It had been dormant for eons, waiting, hidden in the void between galaxies, where time and space folded in on themselves. It had been forgotten by the universe, its existence buried in the annals of history. But now, the signal had reached it, awakening it from its long slumber. And with that awakening came a memory a purpose that had long been buried in the depths of time. It was not alive, not in the way that organic beings understood life. It had no body, no mind in the conventional sense, but was sentient, and it had power beyond comprehension. The artifact that the humans had found was merely a fragment of its being, a piece of its ancient form, left behind as a reminder of what had come before. Now, that piece had reconnected with the whole, and it was beginning to reform. As the sentient force stirred, the very fabric of reality around it began to warp. Stars flickered and dimmed, black holes swirled with newfound intensity, and the cosmic dust that had lain still for billions of years began to move. The force was gathering strength, slowly but inexorably pulling itself back together. And with its reawakening came a hunger for control, for dominion over all things. It had once ruled the stars, bending galaxies to its will, and now it would rise again. It would not be stopped. Back on Void's edge, the aftermath of the artifact's activation had left the research facility in ruins. The energy pulse had vaporized half the equipment, and the surviving crew members were dazed and disoriented. Dr. Tessa Maros, bruised and bloodied, stumbled to her feet, her ears still ringing from the explosion. The artifact now floated above the ground, humming with a strange, otherworldly resonance. Its surface had changed. It was no longer smooth and black, but instead seemed to be pulsing with colors and shapes that defied description. Tessa could feel it in her mind, a constant pressure pushing against the edges of her consciousness. "We need to leave." Jonas Ray's voice cut through the haze, though it sounded distant, as if coming from another world. He grabbed her by the arm, pulling her toward the emergency exit. "Now, Tessa, before this thing." But before he could finish, the artifact pulsed again, this time with a force that knocked them both off their feet. Tessa cried out as the pressure in her mind increased, turning from a dull hum to a sharp, agonizing pain. She clutched her head, her vision blurring as the artifact seemed to reach out to her, probing the depths of her mind. And then, in an instant, she saw it. She saw the being that the artifact was connected to, the entity that had been awakened by its activation. It was vast, incomprehensibly large, stretching across the cosmos like a shadow over the stars. It had no face, no body, but its presence was overwhelming, suffocating, and it was coming. Tessa gasped, her body shaking as the vision overwhelmed her senses. The being was ancient, older than the stars themselves, and it had once ruled the galaxy with an iron fist. But it had been defeated long ago by forces unknown and cast into the void between galaxies. Now, with the artifact's activation, it was returning, and it would stop at nothing to reclaim its dominion. "We have to destroy it," Tessa screamed, clutching at Jonas as she struggled to stand. "The artifact, it's bringing something back. We have to stop it before." But it was too late. Far above them, in the cold depths of space, a ripple appeared. At first, it was nothing more than a faint distortion, a ripple in the fabric of reality. But it grew rapidly, expanding into a swirling vortex of energy and light. The stars around it seemed to flicker and dim as the vortex consumed the space around it, growing larger and more violent with each passing second. And then, from within the vortex, something emerged. It was a ship, or at least, it appeared to be a ship, but it was unlike anything ever seen in the galaxy before. It was vast, its hull black as the void, pulsing with the same energy as the artifact. It was a relic from another time, another place, an ancient warship built by a civilization that had long since faded from memory. But it was not empty. As the ship emerged fully from the vortex, its weapons systems came online, glowing with a dark, malevolent light. The artifact's energy had awakened the ship's ancient systems, and it was now fully operational, ready to carry out its long-forgotten mission. Tessa watched in horror as the ship turned toward the planet, its weapons charging with a low, ominous hum. "We have to go," Jonas repeated, his voice tight with panic as he pulled her toward the escape pods. "Now." But Tessa couldn't move. Her mind was still locked on the vision she had seen, the entity that was returning, the being that would consume the galaxy if it was not stopped. "It's coming," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of the ship's weapons powering up. "It's coming for all of us." And then, with a deafening roar, the ship fired. On Earth, Lyle Varn stood in the Nexus Command Center, watching as the sensors picked up the energy surge from Void's edge. The readings were off the charts. Something massive had emerged from the energy wave, something far more powerful than they had anticipated. "Get me a live feed from Void's edge," Lyle ordered, his voice cold and steady. "I want to see what we're dealing with." The screen flickered to life, showing a distant view of the desolate planet. In the distance, the ship hovered above the surface, its weapons firing in a steady barrage. The planet's atmosphere lit up with explosions as the ship's energy beams tore through the landscape. "Is that a ship?" Commander Brandt asked, her voice filled with disbelief. "It's not just a ship," Lyle said, his eyes narrowing as he studied the readings. "It's a warship, an ancient warship." He turned to face the room, his expression grim. "This is it. The artifact wasn't just a tool. It was a key to something far older and more dangerous than anything we've ever faced." Brandt stared at him, her eyes wide. "What do we do?" Lyle's expression hardened. "We fight. We've always fought. But this time, we may not win." And as the ship continued its assault on Void's edge, deep within the Nexus, the plans for humanity's final stand were already being put into motion. The entity had returned, and the galaxy was about to learn what true fear looked like. This marks the final chapter, Roman. The galaxy is on the brink of annihilation, and humanity's last stand against an ancient cosmic force has begun. What happens next? That's entirely up to you.